Hello, everyone. I recently did a video, things you should know about working with napkins, and I started matching napkins up with images and got carried away, and then I got really excited about doing some of those. So, this video is using some of those things that I showed in the other video, showing the process of really doing it, and so you can see exactly what I was talking about instead of just kind of generally going over it. I will put in the description box below times for certain things. So if you're looking for how to use a damp brush to cut out images from a napkin, those kinds of things, they'll be listed with a time that you can find it so you can fast forward to just the part that you want. I may be here a while. I've got a few things to show you. I went crazy matching up images with napkins, and I just pulled out a few so I can show you just a few things. I have made signatures, more signatures. I made 7 signatures, and the reason I made so many is because I've got a lot of napkins, and I want to use at least one of everything that I have bought. So, just another quick announcement before I really get started. I do have a napkin sale going on right now, and it's not going to be up for much longer. So if you want some napkins, some of these are included. 50 napkins for $17, which includes shipping to the United States. You better hurry because I will be pulling that sale down pretty soon. Where do I put everything so I can work? I have a washcloth here, a wet washcloth, so I can wash off my fingers. When working with napkins, they get real fragile. They're really easy to glue to your fingers if you've got just a little tiny bit of glue to your fingers. So make sure that your fingers are really clean and dry and all that before you start working with your napkins. All right, let's just get started. Let me get one of my signatures out here. I like working in signatures because I'm not fighting all the other pages in a book. I'm not fighting the cover. And the most important thing for me is I can do a page and let it dry flat open, and I don't have to stop. I can let it dry because I do like to let especially my napkins and my collages, I like to let them dry flat if I'm gluing stuff over the ditch of the book. If I let it dry flat, then I won't have problems with that lifting up when the pages start getting turned. So I like to leave my pages open to let them dry. Then I can go to a different signature and continue working on whatever it is that I'm working on. So I do like working in signatures, just so you know. All right, the first thing I showed was getting those layers off your napkin. You want to get the layers off. Usually there's 3 layers, sometimes only 2. Sometimes it's hard to tell if you've gotten all the layers off or not. You really need to look at it and see if you can see the painted part fairly well. Sometimes they're a little pesky to get off. Sometimes they don't want to come off. They take a little bit more effort, a little more patience. I have one that's just horrible to get apart and takes a very long time and a lot of patience. This one has 3 layers. So I will take the 2 layers that I don't want off at one time just to save some time. And you want to take your layers off because you want to glue the layer with the paint on it. You don't want that painted layer to lift off because it didn't really get glued down. The layer underneath it got glued down. So you want to make sure that you're gluing the part you want to the page. And there it is. Alright, so I am going to throw that away. And there is my napkin without any layers. So the next thing, I am just going to glue this napkin to the page. I use glue stick. If you are happier using a wet glue, you should do that. The wet glues make your napkin extremely fragile and sometimes harder to deal with, so I like a drier glue. I am just going to put glue all over my page so I know that it is well glued down. And I am going to spend extra care in getting glue on the edges. You may want to put something down on your desk so you're not getting glue on your desk. That can cause trouble. And I may have to do that. I usually have a gluing magazine that I work on, and I want to get that ditch really, really well because my napkins lift off the page at the ditch a lot and the corners. So make sure we've got lots of glue. And then I am going to carefully line up a corner. I'm going to just do half of a page. I figure I've got so many napkins. Let me line that up before I let the rest of the napkin fall onto the page. I want to make sure it is lined up correctly, because once it touches the glue, it is pretty much stuck. Okay, so I'm going to line up the bottom here just to make sure I've got it lined up correctly. And then I'm going to smooth it out. Okay, that kind of got smunched a little bit. Now, even with a glue stick, that little bit of moisture can mess up your napkin. If you use a clean plastic bit of packaging that you can see through, you can use that to really rub your napkin down. Make sure those creases get out, all the air bubbles get out. Make sure the napkin is really touching the paper, letting that glue really get it down, especially around the edges. You want to do it while the glue is still wet. Make sure everything is good. And using a piece of plastic like that allows you not to damage the napkin. All right? Now, I could trim off this napkin now, but I think that I am going to wait for it to be completely dry before I start trimming. So I'm just going to ignore that for now, just so you can see in the camera. My page stops right about there, and so I want to position my image. And it's kind of nice that I've got all my images sorted with my napkins, and I don't have to fuss around with it. Sometimes that takes me a very long time. Now it's straight on the top, so I want to line that up with the edge, and her foot is hanging over, so I am just going to kind of trim that up a little bit. I don't really need her foot sticking out. Alright, so I think I am going to position her right about there. I can see all the bikes around her. I like the way it looks. I'm excited. I'm going to pull this back out just so it doesn't get glued down. Get my gluing magazine out. I do enjoy using a gluing magazine, and that way I can get glue to the edges of my image without getting glue on my desk. So let me just get a good layer of glue on the image. Make sure I get the edges really well. And then make sure I'm positioning it where I want it before it touches the napkin. You can damage your napkin if you're trying to reposition something. I want to make sure that top is right on the edge. And I do use a piece of cotton t-shirt to make sure that all the air bubbles are taken out from underneath, and this way I can press down the image so that glue contacts the page, and I start from one end and go to the other so there's no wrinkles and no buckles, and it is down there where I want it. Make sure you get all the edges and there's no air bubbles. This makes sure that the glue is connecting those two pieces of paper together really well, and that makes a glue stick stick so much better in the long run. If you're using a t-shirt or a washcloth dry, it really helps things a lot. Alright, so there's my very first page. And I will be outlining, edging the pages with black ink, but I am going to wait till I get all of my pages done before I do that. Okay, so I'm going to go on to my next napkin. I decided that I was going to put on some pages, not all. Some napkins are really big and really have a lot of detail, and I want, maybe a two-page spread. But I have so many napkins that if I did that with every page, I would have 15 napkin journals, or it would be crazy. It would just be crazy. I would have a thick, great big huge napkin journal. Don't necessarily want all that. So I decided that I was going to put maybe 2 different napkins on a double page spread just so that I can use more napkins in this journal. So I have to kind of decide what I want together, and I thought these two were kind of nice. She's a little tall. I didn't realize she was so tall. My page ends right about there, and I don't want to cut her off, so I'm going to have to cut her off on the bottom. Alright, I think that's what I'm going to do. Looks good. That got stuck on some glue there, so I got the first layer off. Let's get the second layer off. second layer. Carefully pull your layers apart. Sometimes they're fused really nice and they want to rip. So be gentle. Don't be in a hurry. I've done this a few times, so I go a little bit faster than I probably should. And I have ripped napkins and had to glue them specifically to try to get them not to look like they have a hole in them. It happens. Alright, so there's my layer. It looks kind of cool. I might save that to put on something else, because I like the pattern there. It's just like a ghost pattern. Turned out really nice. So I'm saving that. Alright, and it looks really good. So again, let me get a clean page out here so I don't get glue all over my table here. I am going to put the glue on the page. Make sure I get everything covered. Make sure I get the ditch, trying not to get the other napkin. And then get the edges really well. Alright. And I'm going to start from the corner here. Line that up. Okay, that did not get put right. Please come off. Make sure that this gets exactly where I want it. Uh-oh. Before I press anything down, I want to make sure it's exactly where I want it. Make sure this edge is exactly where I want it. I'm kind of fussy about this. Okay, and then I'm going to take my plastic packaging and kind of smooth it that way so there's no wrinkles. Everything's straight. And then I'm going to really press it down. I've got some glue on it. So let me wash it off with my washcloth here. And dry it off with a piece of napkin layer that I was throwing away. So I'm not really wasting anything. Got a bunch of glue on that. Make sure it's nice and dry. You don't want it to be wet when you're doing this. Can't be in a hurry. Alright. Now I can press it all down, especially the edges. And again, I am not going to trim this off yet. I'm going to wait for it to dry. So I will come back and show you how I trim a little bit later. And I am going to glue her on. Make sure I get the center really well. And the edges. I do the edges last so they're nice and wet, so they stick extra well. Okay. Get this over here so you can see. And I can see the white part of the page, so I can figure out where I want her before I press her down. I think I might put her way up by the top here. And right about there. Use my t-shirt. This time I'm going to start in the center and work my way to the edges. And that way, with a big piece like this, I am sure to get the wrinkles out and the air bubbles. And I'm pressing them from the center to the edge so the air has some place to go. Just like that. Make sure I've got no wrinkles in it while the glue is still wet. And you know what? I didn't get glue right there on that edge. So let me doctor that up while I can. A little bit of glue there. I didn't go down far enough. I knew I was going to cut some off, and I should have just glued it all. That's better. Okay. So there is a double page spread that's almost done. I just have to trim it and edge it with ink. Got glue in my fingers. So I'm just going to put this to the side, let it dry, and when it's nice and dry, then I will trim it up. That way this will stay straight and flat, and it will dry to that crease there. I have a better chance of that napkin not lifting up if I let it dry completely before I start turning the page. That's why I like signatures. So getting my next signature out. See, I got another signature I can work in. I can let the other one dry, and everything is all fine. All right, so this guy, my mustache napkin. I really like this mustache napkin. So my plan with this is to cut out a mustache and put it on the dog. So this is how to glue little bits of napkin to your image. Okay, so I'm going to be horrible and pick a mustache that's going to be behind this puppy. I have to decide where I want. I think I like this mustache coming out. Kind of like that. Kind of like that. Do I like that? Can we tell it's mustache? It is kind of like a mustache. All right. I should rip it or tear it right there, so I know exactly where I want to lay it. I didn't think about that. And what mustache do I want to use? If we put them to the side a little bit, you can see more of the mustache. So I like that. And then I can use this one. Maybe if I use this corner so I don't have to judge where that is. I can still see the mustaches over here. So I like that. Alright, so I will use this corner to anchor it. And I am going to use that. Looks a little fussy to cut out, so I'm thinking this one will be a nice bold napkin or bold mustache to actually see. So I'm just going to take that one out because the puppy covers it. It is easier to cut out images of a napkin with the layers on it. You've got a little bit more to hold on to. And I should have thought about that before I took the layers off of this, but the layers were already taken off. I was trying to save some time. Didn't think you needed to watch me take the layers off of every napkin. Alright. So there is the mustache. Uh-oh. It's almost too thick. Darn. It's too... You cover up his whole nose. I don't really want that. Let's see what it looks like when I trim it. Let's just trim the top and the bottom just to take a look. Yeah, I don't really like... Oh, I guess if you put it down a little bit, it looks cute. I'm not thrilled with it. Alright, what other mustache does this puppy cover? It does cover this one. It's thinner. I have to really get close to that. Alright, let's try this again. That one would have been cool. Maybe I should just pick a different napkin and cut it apart, because that's going to be a little rough to get perfect. This one might be working just a little bit better. Yep, let me just go grab another one of these napkins. Give me 1 second. Alright. Now I am going to cut it out before I take layers off of it. Which one did I want to try? That one might be cute. I kind of want to try this one. Let me just get it out of there. So I'm not dealing with a whole napkin here. Yeah, that looks cuter. Alright, give me a second. I'm going to cough. I'm going to cough. Give me a second here. Let me mute for just a minute. Wasting time coughing. Better things to do than cough. Alright, so I've still got the layers on this, which makes it easier to handle while I fussy cut this little mustache out. it stays rigid, a little bit more rigid than it would have without these layers on it. But it takes a little bit of time. I probably could leave some of the white around it. It would probably disappear into the image of the dog, but I really don't want to take the chance. I want him to be perfect. The little curlicue here is a little difficult. Maybe I should just leave the white on that just so I don't cut anything off that I don't want cut off. Should be fine. Alright. Let's see what it looks like. Let's take those layers off. No, they don't want to come off. Come on. Careful now, I don't want to rip my mustache. Usually they just fall off at this point. I think there's only one layer on here. And that layer next to the printed layer usually is fused pretty well. There it goes. I want to make sure that this looks right before I glue it down. I'm going to put it right there. Oh, yeah. Can you see it without the... Yeah, that works really well. Alright, so throw that away. Get this out of my way. We want to glue the napkin down first, and then I will show you how to glue that little bit of napkin to the dog. Alright. I want to make sure I have plenty of glue on my page. And then the edges really well. Corners extremely well. And that ditch really well. Okay. I'm going to line up. Let me get this out from underneath it. I'm going to match up this corner first. Doesn't have to be exact because I am lining the edges with black ink. I will be able to mess around a little bit with I got wrinkles in it there. Packaging just so I don't get any air bubbles underneath that napkin. If you get air bubbles under your image or your napkin, you do risk that napkin coming up. It's buckling a little bit. I've got it crooked somewhere. That's all right. And I am going to make sure that that ditch is well pressed in. The edges are good. This even takes out the creases of the napkin. There was a lot of wrinkles in there, but they are coming out by pressing them like this. Uh-oh, I've got glue on my plastic again. You want to make sure that your plastic is clean, glue-free, and dry. If it's wet, it'll start damaging your napkins. If it's got glue on it, it will start putting glue on your napkin where you don't want it. All right. So that is that. Put my mustache right there so I can find it. I'm going to glue my little puppy down next. Clean page on my magazine so I don't get glue on the front of my image. Make sure I have glue all around the edges. A nice layer of glue. Make sure I cover up that hole that I put in there. Is that where I want him? I think so. Get my little t-shirt and I'm going to start rubbing it down from the center to the edges so that I don't have wrinkles, I don't have air bubbles. Everything is well glued down, making contact. It will stay much longer if it's burnished really well. You can kind of see the mustaches through the puppy. Oh well. Guess I should have backed him with a little bit of white paper. It's a napkin journal. You're supposed to see the napkin, so I guess it works. All right. Now, this is the part where you glue the little bit of napkin to your image. And this takes a little bit of practice, some patience, and you can't be in a hurry when you do this. Let me make sure before I put any glue on him that I really like that. I don't need to trim it up anymore. I think it will be fine. A little bit of white on the top kind of shows with his nose, so let me just take that little tiny itsy bitsy bit off. All right. Clean page. You don't want to take any chances that there's glue on your magazine. You want to start from the center, and this is really a tiny little piece, so it's going to be extremely difficult. Start from the center and use the flat part of your glue stick. Make sure you've got glue. Oh, see, it's really, this one's really tiny, so it's going to be a little difficult. Put it in another clean place and get glue on the other side. Without ripping it. All right. Now I need to put it on there without any wrinkles, in just the right place. It is a really thin little mustache. Uh-oh, this side's going to be a little troublesome. Let me move it this way so I can get to it. There we go. Okay, that little bit of white is sticking up. See if I can trim it off. And you know, it didn't get enough glue on the edges. So what I'm going to have to do is put glue on the image. And I'll have to show you how to put glue on a bigger piece of napkin later. Alright, so now I've got it where I want it. I'm just going to place this piece of plastic, and I'm not going to move it because there's glue on the image. I'm going to rub it down, get those wrinkles out of it. I hope that it's in the right place. Get the glue off. So I've got glue on the outer part of this image. It's another reason I want to just let it dry before I do anything with it. I really don't want that glue to touch anything. So, uh-oh, and I'm lifting up on the corner here. I didn't get enough glue on that. So let me get glue there. Dry my plastic. Press it down. All right. So again, I will trim this off later. Actually, this is a good one example. Oh, I have a different example for later. So I'm going to let that dry flat so that that ditch will get really dry, and I will have a better chance of that napkin not lifting off. I could glue a little bit of this napkin across the ditch and then use the next page to put over it, but I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to put on that next page. So there is the mustache puppy. Put that to the side. All right. What have we got next? Another signature. Oh, this is the one that I was going to show, that technique. So it's perfect. All right. I have two napkins here because I'm not sure exactly. Oops, I've got two images here too. Not sure exactly how much I'm going to need. So I've got bits of napkin that I used for something else. I've got this image. I'm not sure if I'm going to use that or not. I want to see what it looks like when I get the napkin down on it. This one is an image that I want to put directly on the page. And I think I'm going to stick it right about there. I'm going to glue it over the center. There are words here, and I am thinking that I really don't like the looks of that, because I don't like the words showing through the napkin. This napkin has been used, so the layers are taken off of it. So I'm actually going to rip so it doesn't look so straight and harsh, the edge. I just want those words off of there. Oops, and that little bit of black right there. Okay, and this is going to get cut off, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. Let's see what it looks like. That is much better. Alright, so this is what I'm going to do. I am going to glue my image down on the page first. And then I am going to use the napkin to put over the image in little bits. I'll show you what I mean by that. This is one of those that I want to glue the napkin down specifically where I want it, to dry it, and then lift off the edges so I have a torn edge. I don't know if I'm describing it well enough. So this is what this process video is all about. Let's get that to the edge. Use my t-shirt to get it straight. The hairs off of it. No wrinkles, no air bubbles. There's a big old wrinkle right there. Another wrinkle. Oh well, it happens. Going over the ditch of this book here, so I want to make sure that that is well burnished down. And then I'm going to go down this way. And that looks like it needs a little bit more glue, so put glue right there. And get it glued down. Got a little bit of glue right there. Get that off so it doesn't cause me trouble. Okay. There's a little hard bit right there. What is that? Okay, so burnish that down really well. Make sure the image is down. So I've got the image down first. And what I want to do is add napkin. I don't necessarily like the edge here, so I'm going to have to cut that off. But I want to add the napkin bits to this part. And I don't necessarily want it to go over. I want to be able to see the tree and these people down here. So I am just going to put some glue exactly where I want that napkin to be glued down. Let me tear up the napkin first before I start doing that. And this is a bunch of little glasses, and they are upside down right here, so I kind of want them all right side up. So I am going to tear them so that they're all right side up. And I am going to cut off that border because I don't really want that. I'm going to do the same thing for this. Actually, let me cut off the border first. Be faster. I had so much fun after making that video, just matching up napkins with the images. Kind of lost track of time. And it started getting dark, and I didn't realize I was still messing around with these napkins. So I decided just to keep on going since the napkin journal was speaking to me. It was working. It was making me happy. I decided, you know what? Let's just go with it. There's other glue books that I would really like to work on too, but this was all out and working, so I decided, oops, there's a little bit of the border there too. I decided, you know what, let me just do that. And I am going to put napkin, oh, it's upside down. I was going to rip that. See, I got sidetracked already. Of course, now that I'm ripping it, I probably won't like it. I might want a whole piece. I might like a wider piece. Kind of like that. Because I don't really want to overlap. It might look a little funny. Do I have enough napkin? Not really. So I'm going to have to use this other one. To get all of what I want. Am I going to worry about these being upside down? How much does it bother me? You really can't tell. I'm thinking I'm going to put her on this side. You know what? Instead of piecing it all together, I think I might just use the whole thing the way it is. I do have to piece it down here because it's not going to be wide enough. So yeah, if I'm going to piece it together anyway, I might as well have the cups all the right direction. I guess I could cut that. I could put that on the edge. And I haven't taken the extra layers off of this yet. Okay, and I am going to cut off the border. It's a weird ucky brown. Okay. Let me just take it off of this one too. So I don't have to worry about it. Okay. And then take off the layers. Is there... I think there's only one layer on this one. I think I got these at the Dollar Tree. Almost certain I got them at the Dollar Tree. I haven't seen them in a while though. Alright. So I don't really like that signature there. And I don't like the straight edge. I am going to want that to be torn. Sometimes the straight edges catch my eye and I don't like the looks of them. So I am layering that to see how much of the napkin I can see underneath. And not a lot. I do see that signature though, so I'm just going to cut that off. It's in red, kind of noticeable. And take that one off too. So I want the ripped edges around the sides, around this image, so that I don't see this straight edge. So the trick to this is, let me get my pieces out where I'm going to glue them. Make sure everything is how I want it. Bring that down just a little bit so I cover all of that. And then that will work for right there. Alright, so this is where I'm going to put napkin. And that's how I'm going to do it. So let me put these pieces where I can remember where they go. And what I'm going to do is I am going to put glue on the page where I want the napkin to go. Let me do this top one first. And I am going to go over this edge right to the tree right here. And a little bit in there. And I am going to lay the napkin into that glue. I'm going to try to get it straight. Is this the piece that's supposed to be here? I have forgotten now. I guess it doesn't really matter. Uh-oh, I'm losing my other one. Alright, let's get it down there really well. I've got glue on this already. Okay. Next layer. I am overlapping the napkins a little bit, so I'm trying to get a bit of glue on the napkin without damaging it. I don't think I want it too far in. Oop, there's a hole up there. I need it up just a little bit more. Come on. There we go. Very gently. We don't want to rip anything. All right. Now the bottom part. Make sure that's down there really well. Edges are good. The corner is good. And then I'm going to do this part. And I am just putting glue right along this torn edge. I want this napkin just to be specifically right there. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. Afterwards. Make sure I get glue in the center. So I'm just putting glue where I want the napkin to be. Okay? And then I am going to place the napkin over it without trimming it. Make sure that it is down there really well. And I don't know if I got a little bit of glue so that they overlap just a little bit. Make sure it is down there. Okay. Now here's the trick. Because I don't really like the way that looks. The napkin is going over really where I want it to be. I am going to use a heat tool. It's going to be a little bit noisy. If you are sensitive to noise, please mute for just a second. I am going to dry that glue really well. A lot of times when I'm doing this technique with a napkin, I will let it dry overnight because I want to make sure that it is really dry. Really, really, really dry. So that it will work properly. And I'm not really worried about too much over here because I'm going to trim that off. I'm more concerned about this area and this edge right here because I do not like that straight edge right there. All right. Make sure it's well dried. Okay. And to make that straight edge disappear, I am just going to rip the napkin away, and where it is not glued down, it will come away from the page. That straight edge just goes away. Makes a torn edge, makes the edge a little bit softer, blends it a little bit better. I really like the way it looks. I'm going to do the same thing here. All of this is not glued down. So I'm just going to should be able to, if you can get a hold of that little tiny bit of napkin, should be able to just get a hold of a corner and just let it rip. Alright, I'm going to do it up this time. See how that, and there's a little corner there, don't necessarily like that corner, so I'm going to cut that off. And this part as well, I am going to get an edge. I put a little bit too much glue, I think, because I didn't want it to go over the tree. So there, scrape a little bit of that off. Here's my edge. Get a hold of it. You might want to leave a little bit more edged so that you can grab onto it. But where I'm pulling is where there isn't any. Here's a good place to show you. Alright. So let me just take that and rip it. And where it's not got glue underneath it, it comes away. I really like this technique. Yeah, that's all done. I've got glue on my fingers, but I don't want to get my fingers wet while I'm doing this. So just tear that away, and let me throw all these little bits away. I've got just a little white showing right there. So do I have just a tiny little bit of napkin? I need just the top of one. So I don't see that little bit of white right there. Add just a tiny bit of glue and patch it up so no one will know. Just like that. So now I've got a nice soft edge instead of that harsh straight line, and it doesn't catch my eye as much as that straight line did. And I've got the bits covered that I really don't want to see. Again, I'm going to wait till it dries completely before I trim this, and I need to trim all of that and all of that. And I am going to line it with black ink. And this side over here is pretty boring. So I think it needs, and I might put it more to the edge, I think it needs another little figure over here. I like the way she looks like that. I'm going to leave her square up here because I think it just, I think she'll get lost in the napkin if I don't do that. This is dark enough, bold enough that it stands out. But I think I like that, so I am going to glue that down. I think it was about there. Using the rule of thirds a little bit. Third of this page here, so it's not completely in the center. Let me use my t-shirt, get that down there really well. And then their head. I'm matching up her shoulders with the shoulders of the figure underneath her, so she kind of looks like she belongs there. should probably have cut that. Can I get it off without damaging the napkin? I didn't notice that ahead of time. Okay, it is down there. I get to live with it. This is what happens when I go too fast. It's all right. You won't notice it too badly. All right. So there's another one. And another reason I want this to dry flat is I've got a lot of things going over the ditch here. If I let it dry flat before I start turning the page, chances are that it will stay connected, stay glued to that ditch when the pages are turned back and forth. Let it dry completely before you start moving it. I didn't get this image all the way to the end, the edge of the paper there, so that's going to be part of what the black ink is going to hide. Alright, so that was putting napkin over an image and having a torn edge. Okay? The next one that I wanted to show, another signature, is sometimes, and I don't know if this one will actually, I like this. I'm not sure if this actually needs white paper behind it. Oh, it's not printed all the way. Oh dear. I did not know that. Uh-oh. I might have to have another napkin. I was not aware that it wasn't printed fully. Oh well. Let me take the lining off of it and see how see-through it is. It is a darker color. I'm not sure if it really needs white behind it. And that is, it's only got one layer to it, I think. Yep, only one layer to this. Oh dear. I was not aware that it wasn't printed the entire napkin. All right. So, oh yeah, you can see the dark against it. What I'm going to do is I am going to use this napkin to piece around this owl. First thing I am going to do is glue my owl image down, and I am going to put him over the ditch. So I want a lot of glue right there. And a lot of glue here, and glue the owl down first. Since he is not, I kind of want him centered on the page just a bit. So where does that, oh, he got glued down really well. That was fast. Come on. It's not where I want you. Let's see, I want him right about there. And I want his face to be together, so before this dries, wow, it really got glued down Well, I may have to add a little bit more glue. Seem to be taking it all off. All right. It doesn't always go as smoothly as you'd hope, right? Let me put him. Looks like he's not completely cut correctly. He was a 2-page spread in a magazine. Here's my t-shirt. Let me start with this side and really get that ditch down and get it glued down. Nope, I didn't get to the edge enough. So let me put some more glue down there. It's going to be a little distracting. You can see a line in his face. Not too bad. If I look at it, it doesn't really show unless you know it's there. So I'm just kind of going to pretend that it's not there. And see if I can get used to the way it looks that way. Let's see that. Yeah. You can kind of tell, but unless you're really looking for it, it doesn't show too bad. So it's okay. All right. So I've got a lot of things to cover up here. I don't necessarily want this showing. Don't want these words showing. I don't want the edges. So I am going to use this napkin that I thought was printed all the way. It's got a line here. So let me use my scissors. Cut it away. I'm going to line this with white paper. And then I know that I won't be able to see anything through the napkin. I am going to line the entire napkin with white paper. Well, I wasn't expecting to cut this all apart. This is taking too much time. I hope you guys are working along with me. I hope I'm giving you company to help you finish your projects. And let me cut that here. Yeah. So I am going to put glue on the page. And glue that to the paper. It lightens it up quite a bit. Let me do that with the other side too. I don't necessarily like, I can rip it off afterwards. It's got a little seam printed there with some words. Don't love that. Okay, so it's all glued down. Brightens it up quite a bit. And now I can put it on top of this image. Without worry that the darkness is going to show through the napkin. This is using a napkin on white paper to hide dark patches underneath. Alright, so I should really dry that, but I'm not going to. So I have all this stuff that I want to cover up with this napkin. I am just going to rip it because I do like the torn edge look. I am going to rip it into pieces. If the leaves are going, oops, this is why you want to dry it before you start ripping it, so the napkin actually stays glued to the white paper. Brushing things a little bit. I don't want to use the heat tool either. It'll work, she says, hopefully. Just can't be in a hurry to tear this out. Okay. Now that kind of got some white paper showing. Don't really like that, so I am going to rip the white paper bits off. Okay. A little bit of white paper right there too. So I want to add this to the edges. Actually, I can cut that straight because it's going to be on the edge. You won't notice it. So I want to put all this, actually I want the leaves to go up and down, and I need them for over here as well. Some over here. I am going to cut this off so that I can put it there. Cut this one straight so I can put some right up in there. I need it to be about that wide, and I'm going to put the edge on that side. Let me tear this one so it's easier. I've got something to hang on to. It needed to be just a little bit wider right there, but that's fine. It's fine. We'll make it work. So I'm just piecing it together to cover all my edges. I need a big piece here. I might put some over this seam so I can kind of disguise that. I need here and here. That didn't get glued on very well. Glue that. Let me tear. I want to try to keep the leaves going up and down. So I'm going to put that here. And this may take me a little bit to piece back and forth. I am getting too much of the white paper showing through. I have to go a little bit slower. Make sure that that's dry and well burnished down. That helped a little bit. So I'm going to put that there. I need to cover that whole bit right there. Do not like that at all. I need it to be about that wide. Let me make sure that this is all burnished to the paper here before I rip that. And it is easier to blend the torn edges than it is straight edges. So I can overlap these torn edges. And it doesn't look quite overlapped. A little bit of white right there. And it is too wide. I can put it up. Make that a little less corner-like. This is going to take me a minute, isn't it? I need a little bit right there. And some right there. Is that long enough? Of course not. I need a little bit right there, and I can cut that off because it's going to be at the edge like that. And I need a little bit for right up there. Alright, and I have just a little bit left over. Don't have to use 2 napkins. Where do I want it? I don't like this straight edge right here. Or this white edge. It's got a little bit of the paper showing through. I really don't want that. So I'm going to have to carefully tear it so I can't see any of that white paper. That's working. I kind of don't want it so straight either. This one also, I can see white paper. Tear the paper off just a little bit. Seems to work. Alright. I don't need that. This needs to be a torn edge. Getting white papers everywhere. Sorry, I've gotten quiet. This is serious business here. Not really. Do you want... Oh, that kind of competes with his beak, though, doesn't it? Maybe I don't want that. But I do have him surrounded in this napkin. All right. Am I happy with that? Pretty much. Not too bad. And so I am going to start gluing the bits down. There's a little bit of white here. There we go. I'm going to start gluing. Actually, I should glue this one down first because that's got a straight edge to it. And I am going to make sure I've got glue everywhere that I need it. And just start piecing it together. Just like that. Let me do this side over here. And this is a really thin one, so I don't really need to put a lot of the napkin on there. I can keep it pretty thin. Let me do this corner. Oops. That needs glue on it. Seeing more of that white paper. And I think I need more glue down here. I think I need to, oops, rip that off. I'm getting glue all over my fingers. Here we go. And I'm going to trim off the edges so that doesn't matter. a little bit of a white edge here. So let me see if I can take that edge off. Takes a little bit of time, but it is good results. So it's worth it to get it just right. It is about the process, not necessarily the finished project. I'm going to put that there. A bit of glue so I know where it's going to sit. Like that. This one has a little bit of white showing too. And of course you can back your napkin with paper and fussy cut the image out, and you won't have the problem of the white showing through as much. A bit of glue glob there. Okay, do the top. We're getting there. We're getting there. Actually, let me put some glue on there so I know that I'm getting glue in the right place. Here we go. Almost there. And just a little bit there on the corner. Oops. Yeah, I have glue on the image here. That looks a little strange. I need to line up my leaves a little bit more, but you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. I am just going to add a little bit over here so it kind of balances it out. Kind of like that. I have a little bit more. Do I really want to use it? Or not? Oops. Put a little bit right there. I got glue on my fingers. have more things to show you, but I have been working for a very long time. I kind of expected to go a little bit faster than this. Kind of like that right there. I'm going to just glue that down. Kind of like that. And this last piece, in the other corner. Might as well use all of it. This is the only piece left. Might as well use it all. Match up all four corners. I wasn't expecting to go quite this long, so I may come back with more of this. I've got a few other things to show. And I am going to let that dry, and then I am going to trim all around the edges because there's a lot of stuff hanging off. There's a lot of stuff. Oh, there's another little piece of napkin. Oops. Take the lid off. Let's blend this little area here because it looks like it needs a little bit of blending. Alright, so I've used up all of the napkin. What little bit there was printed. So I will come back with another video showing some other little bits, making some more pages in the napkin journal, and let these dry. I'll come back and show you what they look like all trimmed up and ready to go. It didn't turn out half bad. Look how cute he is. Alright. Thanks for watching. More later.